indoor air quality is 4 to 5 times more polluted than outside air. Before you even leave the house in the morning, you've already been exposed to more than 100,000 different chemicals.
Wow.
And that's personal care items, cosmetics are a big factor, anything that off-gases. So that could be the paint on your wall. That could be the mattress you sleep on and inhale all night long. Sometimes it's hidden in glues, for example, in cabinets that have been glued together by some off-gassing. It gets really, really tricky. It's not one thing. It's a chain of different chemicals that we constantly get exposed to that add up in our body until your body says, can't handle it anymore, done.
You're nailing it, I think, on giving good resources to people and educating them. And I will absolutely be a subscriber of yours. And this is the messages that we need to hear. And I think that turning people online to what's really in their house out of the most, sacred places is, could be hurting them in some ways unconsciously. So, thank you.
We think of our homes as our nest. So build it with the right type of products and materials to be a safe nest. Your choice.
So welcome to Ivana Speaks, Sabine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Exciting to talk to you.
Absolutely, yes. And you guys, wow, looking at kind of the statistics and how much this network has grown, you have over 15 million viewers on an average monthly basis. Gosh, tell me, how do you get there and how did this start? And I would love to get an idea of your journey.
Yeah, so it started a few years ago. We first thought we were going to raise some money and build it out of some capital raise. That didn't happen. So we just regrouped and said, okay, what can we build without a huge amount of capital? And we started to slowly build, which is why it took us a little longer. So having these results feels doubly joyful and rewarding because we've really stuck with it over many, many months. Pro bono, I might add, because we are really convinced that people need to hear our message, which is don't pollute your own environment. We spend so much time at home. Some people, up to 90% per many statistics, are spent indoors. And make sure that you're breathing good air, that you're taking in good water. Those are the building blocks of life, and we really need to get that right. By the way, EPA even says the indoor air quality is 4 to 5 times more polluted than outside air.
Wow.
Take that in for a minute. 4 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air. That says, as homes are getting tighter, you are in Austin, you have so much heat, you want to cool it and keep the cooled air in. Therefore, you have greater and greater insulation around you. Your house envelope is tighter and tighter. It's all the more important to make sure that the air quality does not suffer from all the many products that we introduce into the space all the time, mostly unknowing.
Wow. Yeah. And would you say that that's alarming to hear that statistic, right? Would you say that's primarily from the materials of the construction that is contributing, or is it just the internal contributions of cooking and, air pure sense and things of that nature? What is the actual contribution factor of this?
I truly wish there was only one factor. The reality is it's coming at us from so many different directions. Right. There are studies that say before you even leave the house in the morning, you've already been exposed to more than 100,000 different chemicals.
Wow.
And that's personal care items, cosmetics are a big factor. Anything that off-gases. So that could be the paint on your wall. That could be the mattress you sleep on and inhale all night long. Anything that has formaldehyde or other intensely off-gassing type of material sometimes is hidden in glues, for example, in cabinets that have been glued together by some off-gassing. It gets really, really tricky. And so it's not one product category, which is why we thought streaming was the ideal platform, because in streaming you can present architecture and design, you can present DIY projects, you can present podcasts to talk about these issues. You can really have a wide array so that the consumer can choose and come at it and investigate this whole topic from many different directions.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I guess, well, let's back it up a little bit. If no one has heard of SHG Living, how would you summarize what you're educating on the platform and network?
Well, early on, we decided that we were not, we, my business partner and I, who started it, he is really the technical genius behind the whole program. We decided that the preachy environmentalism does not really stick with the consumer. In order to make this a movement that has awareness built around how polluted our environments really are, it takes everybody. All consumers make choices on a daily basis. And so we want to invite all consumers to come in and look at these issues. That was our goal, and it remains to be our goal. So having over 15 million monthly active users compared to HDTV's 640,000 in that same time period already feels like a big win. But truthfully, given 185 million households in the United States alone, it's only the beginning. And so we're really interested in building this out and inviting consumers to really investigate for themselves. And there's so many stories that all point in the direction of, you really want to get this right because you don't even know where these hidden toxins really are. To your point, take sunscreen, for example. We are in the middle of the summer. Tomorrow I'm giving a talk on sunscreen. The FDA came out in 2020 with a big study where they found that I'll tell you what the 6 is, 5 specific ingredients in a lot of popular sunscreen lotions are actually harmful. They get into your blood system too fast and overtake your entire bloodstream, your entire body. Mm-hmm. It's all there. The studies are there. The FDA went as far as pointing it out and connecting it to different manufacturers and be very specific about the actual products. Some are the inexpensive stuff, some are the medium price one, but even a company like Neutrogena, which was built on the idea of making cosmetics healthy and affordable, is on the list. As is Roche-Posay, which we all know, a little bottle like this, a little tube of sunscreen costs $45. They are on the list. And as a consumer, you're sold down the river because you stand in front of all these products and you have no clue of what's in them. It's all on the label, but I'm not a chemist. I don't understand what I'm looking at. So we're working on a lot of exciting issues to help the consumers more and more to make sense of it, because it surrounds us everywhere, in our gardens, in our homes inside, everywhere.
Right. Wow. No, I think what you're doing is so profound, Sabine, because it's the last thing people start to think about is the home and the construction there and anything related to that. But I also think that your mission is so important. You really do believe it's the mind, body, soul concept. And I think you're so right on that. But it's quite overwhelming because 90%, if not more, is not good for us. It's almost like what is good for us is not readily available or not readily accessible because people can't afford to pay for $20 sunscreen, for example. And that's the small example. But then that goes to efficient home construction, efficient energy systems that most people, again, can't afford this stuff. So
little footnote, you can afford certain things. I've
Yeah.
spoken to budding architecture students and they're like, oh, we want to help the world and everybody has to have these products. And it's like, what can we do? Not everybody can install fancy air systems in their homes. True. But you can install a little ERV, which is energy recovery ventilation system. That's not that expensive. That starts to go in the direction, starts to filter your air. And here's a really simple one. What about the paint on your wall? When you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, you find three different choices. The old off-gassing paint, the low VOC, and the no VOC. And you pay a couple of dollars more, and that really, those dollars are your health, and it's really worth doing. So these products are there. You may not be able to do everything, but you certainly can go in the direction. You'd be surprised how many behavioral shifts you can make just through the simple little product choices, if you only knew.
Oh, no, this is really profound. And so I guess a bigger question is, what are some of these easily replaceable items that are not so unattainable? So you provided an example of paint. So paint, what are a couple of other things that right off the bat you think people could switch for at a low cost that would make an impact to their health?
Another really big one is anything to do with water. It would be great to have a whole water filtration system, but if you can't, give yourself a decent rated, NSF rated is the critical part here, because there's so much misguided information out there. People claim we have filters in refrigerators, for example, but they're not worth anything. They don't really filter anything. But a rated NSF filter for your shower, because you have likely in Austin, water is a big topic there. You have a lot of chlorine in your water. The first thing you want to do is have a filter on your shower so it doesn't become part of the air and you breathe it in on top of it. Same thing on your kitchen faucet, where you likely get some water just to get some quick drinking water, or even for your plants. It's full of chlorine. And then the third thing is your refrigerator. Don't take ice cubes from your refrigerator if it's not filtered water in the first place. Don't feed it to your kids. Don't give it to your pets. They suffer even more than the human body, just because they're a little smaller, more compact, and more sensitive as a result. So good filtration of water is another really attainable topic, a measure, but you've got to do it in all of those places. And if you have enough bathrooms, for example, especially kids' bathrooms, it might make better sense to do a whole filtration system at the end for the entire house and be done with it, because these filters, when they are the replacement cartridges, they add up pretty quickly. So that's kind of where you have to gauge it. But that's the next thing you absolutely want to get handled in your own home. And that's also good for renters. Install a little filter on your shower head, install a filter on your refrigerator, and at least one sink where you then commit to taking water from and no other.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
you can
that's
take
a
them with
big
you
one.
when you go.
Yeah, no, that is a huge one. I mean, given that we are made up largely of water, so you make a great point. Thank you. I think I can implement that immediately into my own household. So, I think the other thing really is kind of, I'm curious on, where do you see overall construction changing? Because a lot of this stuff is systemic issues, right? We've been building and constructing for so long in a certain way that now individuals like you are educating that it was maybe not very health conscious, to now are new systems being placed into the construction areas and zones that impact us and conscious building that you're aware of.
A lot of the construction industry is driven by building regulations. And there you will see that they all go more and more in the direction of energy efficiencies. And that's good, but it's also bad if it's just implemented by itself. And I'll give you this example. This is exactly how it started for me. Every time, because I'm a designer and I come out of home building, I've built many homes over many years. And every time the walls would close in, I would start to feel sick. And I would push myself to the end of the project. It took a couple of projects, 3, 4 projects, before I finally caught on. Maybe there's a pattern here. Maybe there's something I'm discovering inadvertently here. And that's exactly what it was, because I should have been thrilled and over the moon every time a project sold and it was great project done, on to the next one. And I felt so gummed up, so exhausted in my body. Would take me months every time to come back from it and step into the sort of next phase of my life. And that's exactly the issue with super insulated houses. As building codes become stricter and insist on tighter envelopes, tighter, more insulated walls, roofs, and whatever, which is a good thing in theory, you then have to ask yourself, what am I locking in here? How does air filtration even take place? In old homes, this was never an issue. There wasn't as much of toxicity in every product coming globally from around the world that you have no clue what really is in there if you don't really investigate it and be careful. And B, it was air exchange anyway, whether it was cold or hot, didn't matter. The more extreme, the more exchange there was, it was sort of taken care of. But that's not where building codes are going. Right now, you want to, because energy is getting more and more expensive, you want to keep it inside. So do you have a gas stove? A lot of people say, oh, I love to cook on gas. I must have gas. Well, you're putting all kinds of stuff in the air every time you turn it on. And this is one of those behavior changes that I always talk about, because how do you start to cook on a gas stove? You turn on the stove, you have that initial click, click, click. Sometimes you can even smell a little kickback into the air from the gas. And then maybe later you turn on the vent when you really start to get cooking. Reverse that. First put on the vent and then start turning on the gas. So at least you have a chance to have as much pulled up from the initial boost that always kicks into the room and pollutes your air as you possibly can through your vent. Mm-hmm. So that's a behavior change that one can make just to sort of force oneself to establish better air. But gas, I would not have a gas stove in my house. Ever, 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 ever. When you look at what it does, there's no way. Another really common one, and we've had in so many houses for so many years, is polyurethane. If you have hardwood floors in your house, it's probably sealed with polyurethane. Polyurethane is a known neurotoxin. And then have your little kids play on that nice, brand new floor, get that off gases, and their noses are right on top of it. Maybe they're even licking it. Your animal's just the same. Why are cancer rates in our pets going through the roof? Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of things that add to it. And it's not one thing. It's a chain of different chemicals that we constantly get exposed to that add up in our body until your body says, can't handle it anymore, done. Mm-hmm. And then unfortunately, you cannot come back from it anymore. You can control the triggers as best as you can, but I have had clients, even in real estate, in my brokerage side of things, where people said, I cannot go see a house. It has to be vented, all windows open for 3 days before I can set foot in it. I can't go to a normal supermarket because God knows what kind of cleaning agents they use. They may all trigger me.
Wow.
It is life-changing when you get to that level. And it's that level where that happens is different for each and every one of us. I was pretty damn close, I would say, because I felt so exhausted. I was very lucky that I didn't step over it for some reason. I was very protected. That's where I go into soul space. I have another mission in me, and clearly they weren't going to let me not execute this mission, which is bring awareness to as many people as I can about this. This is real stuff. And when you catch on to it, it's usually too late. So I want to urge everybody to take initiative and think through what they're really doing. What is under their counters? What kind of cosmetics are you using? What mattress are you sleeping on? Hello, 7 hours on a mattress and it's off-gassing? Give yourself a little gift and buy an organic mattress. That's another really biggie everybody should really focus on instead of these cheap or formaldehyde off-gassing things. Your body is going to pay for it.
Hmm. Yeah. And well, and thinking about home ownership, back to you were saying the flooring, and are builders required in any capacity to disclose what materials are being used in construction? Or
Nope, nope,
wow.
nope, nope, they are not. And so they're
So
going to go and use the materials that they have used all along, unless, and this is why SHG Living was set up and it still talks to the consumer, not the builder per se, because they're the last ones to make changes. When the consumer demands it, they will eventually make changes.
wow. Yeah, and that's a great point because that's what's happening in the food industry. I think a lot of people stopped buying certain processed foods, and you notice kind of no, those brands now have shifted to more of a healthy product and want to be more simple ingredients. So you're right, your sales will reflect that, but we as the consumers need to stop engaging in the purchasing of some of these things, and but also being conscious about not everyone can afford, like we talked about. But you make a great point. You can make small economic changes that are impactful. So and you are very, this is a personal thing for you, Sabine. You lost your dad to,
Yes.
and some animals to this, I guess. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, so I had already started to build a, I didn't call it Smart Healthy Green, but a house that was, I was building on spec to test out the theory of, was there a market? Is there enough of consumer interest that they will make the healthy products that I was installing from companies that are here in the States? They're not just coming out of Europe and you'll never see them again, which is a very important part of any good construction job in my, I believe. Uh, and so I was in full force building this house, really experimenting with all these different products already. Um, when my father, who lives in Germany, and Germany is actually typically fairly clean as a country, they're much more aware of this than we are over here. But then there's a little thing called PFAS. Here you call them forever chemicals. And they are sometimes on the land, they're sometimes in the water. This is going to be our biggest eye opening environmental issue confronting all of us here. So, in my
Can you
father,
elaborate on that a little, Sabine, for someone that might not know what forever chemicals are exactly?
well, there was even a 60-minute report on it, and I encourage everybody to watch that program. That included two organic farms in Vermont and Massachusetts where people thought they were doing organic um, vegetable farming, and it turned out to be a complete ecological disaster. And there's
Wow.
that points out that there's nobody testing. You can put a label on anything, but who knows whether you are in fact farming organically. In my father's case, in Germany, you always did a very natural thing. You would, instead of buying fertilizer and spreading chemical fertilizer on your land, you get the manure from different farms and you spread that in the spring across your farmland. Well, my father was a veterinarian, by the way, and so to him, this was all very natural to want to do. He was then in an area, my parents had divorced, this was his second practice, where there were a lot of pig farms all the way around. So I bet what actually happened is he said to one of those clients of his, it's fine, spread some manure across my property. But these poor hogs were probably, there was so much crap in them, whether it's medical waste or whatever other chemical thing was in these animals that were going to be slaughtered for human construction. P.S. That manure was spread across my father's property, who was living in what you call like a chateau, if you were in French, a postcard, picturesque, perfect space, beautiful, gorgeous, little quaint village next door, etc. And he was overlooking some fields, his fields for his horses. Well, fast forward, he also had Parkinson's, so he had lost any sense of speech at that point. But He died of kidney tumors. His wife died 2 weeks after he died of a brain tumor and kidney tumors. 2 horses and 3 dogs also died of heavy-duty kidney tumors. So the whole family wiped out within a month.
Wow.
And my father knew it because there's the story that a neighbor told me who was sort of helping out at the time, where she was saying, your father, every time we wanted to feed the horses, we had to distract him because when he caught on to the fact we wanted to now feed the horses, he would get violent and aggressive and thrust himself out of his wheelchair when, remember, he couldn't talk anymore. And so something must have gotten in his brain because of the Parkinson's disease, because he was so aggressive, wanting us to stop feeding the horses. As I said, my father was a veterinarian. He would never do anything against animals. Animals came before humans in his life. We knew that as children. It's like he would take care of the animals before he would come home and take care of us, maybe. So something was not sitting right. The light bulb went on a few days later when he came to me in a dream and he showed me the whole thing. He knew that there was something wrong with what had been put on his land. His whole land was now polluted, and he wanted to intercept them feeding the hay from that land because he knew that would cause a problem for his animals, never thinking that he was part of the same food chain in the end, and they all died.
Wow.
So it can happen everywhere. This is a very, very serious thing. It's in the soil, it's in the water, it's been like many things, like even that FDA investigation on suntan lotions. It's there, the information is there, but it's been successfully squashed because you can get pretty upset about the whole thing. And, we should know, but, you know.
Wow. I can't imagine how this makes you so passionate to deliver these messages. And I think they're really profound. And so I guess as you guys educate at SHG, what are some things that what's your future, I guess, look like in educating society on all these very critical, important health conscious topics?
Yeah, we are still the only streaming service, the only platform that is sustainably and healthy focused in the entire media space. It's amazing, actually.
Wow.
So our focus is we want to show more and more really cool, sustainably built projects all around the country, all around the world, to show people it can be done. And I would add, it should be done. Those are fantastic buildings. Being in those buildings, whether it's residential or commercial buildings, is a treat because you will know when you are in them how good your body feels. When I built this house, which was my test case, and people would be coming in and they would look around, they often, very often come back to me afterwards and say, I've been in here 10 minutes. I finally can breathe. What have you done in this house? I can breathe for the first time. I tend to be a little asthmatic. My kids have all asthma conditions and whatnot. Here I can breathe. Well, I can tell you why. We didn't put in all those toxic materials, and we built a very good air filtration system to boot. That's why you're breathing. And so I want to bring that story to more and more people and show that it can be done. It can be done in your house. I have often said, don't buy a $20,000 refrigerator. Put it into an air filtration system, because when you build a house, you do have a budget. It comes down to the choices we all make, how to spend those dollars. Maybe it doesn't have to be so big. Build it a third smaller, and therefore you have other ways to spend your budget. It's choices. Find the right people in the building trades, in the architect design crowd that will help you make those choices. So for us, it means show people more and more how exciting it really is. I wish I could pump the air through the channels, through the waves, to show people and have their own experience, because it's just fantastic when you're in these places. You are so much more productive. There's so many studies that show that you feel better, you feel healthier, you have just more energy, period. And The second thing for us is we're working on some really interesting tools. We're in the early stages. We're currently in a capital raise because it takes capital to put these things together to make sure that they are usable for people. But so as soon as that's done and over with, we want to build a tool to help people further in their adventure around their worlds to understand the products that surround them that they may or may not want to have in their homes.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, right now with present day resources, what are some tools people can immediately use to check the quality of certain materials in their home? Does anything like that exist?
No, not to my
Wow.
knowledge. That's
Okay.
the difficult thing. And that's why I encourage people right now for that reason. Install something that makes your air better and your water better. So we talked about the water filters in your refrigerator, your shower, and your sink faucet. Do that. Do that, and you will see you will feel better over time. It's not something that happens immediately. Just like you're not going down for the count immediately. It takes time, and this is one of the tricky things. But when people, especially in the Gen Z generation, people getting married, having kids, that's the moment that they are becoming really aware of what are the choices that I make for my children. We don't do things for ourselves half the time, but we'll do it for our kids or our pets. And
That's
we want to,
true.
we want to grab that moment and say, here are your options. And then same thing for air quality. If you have a ducted HVAC, so air and cooling system that runs through ducts and gives you air throughout the house, there's something called an energy recovery ventilation unit. And I will send you the filters that come out of these units, and a new filter and one that has been used for 3 weeks, and you know what you're now breathing. The, the used filter is black with all kinds of soot and stuff in it. It's shocking. It is eye-opening and shocking. But that's not a really expensive thing to put into your house either, because this is just one unit that plugs in there, less than $1,000 usually, and those are beginning steps to absolutely, I would do in a heartbeat.
Yeah, pro tips coming from you. And I'm curious, Sabine, what are some things that you do to detox when you do find yourself in, okay, I'm in an environment that might be you, I'm sure you could sense the polarity. What do you do to kind of rectify that once you go there?
You leave.
Okay.
You leave. There are places where I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't be in here. It's just, my nose is going crazy, my eyes are going crazy. But sometimes it's difficult. We just had the fires in Canada, where I am in Connecticut. We had all that smoke and soot coming down there. It's very difficult. Was very difficult for me to be outside. To walk the dog was like he was sneezing and like sneezing, and I was like rubbing my eyes just to be in that air. This is an extreme example. Hopefully air quality is not always that bad, but it is an example of how quickly something can happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I hope that everything is okay now. How long ago was that?
3 days ago.
Wow. How are you guys doing up there now?
Now it's fine. It's in the upper atmosphere, but who knows with acid rain and whatever when we get it again. It's just, this is
Mhm.
why I'm saying
Right.
living healthy is no different than thinking about the planet being healthy. It is one and the same. We're living on the planet. We've got to protect our resources of good air and good water. The poor people that lost their houses in the fires in LA, I don't know that I would want to go back to those areas, because when you have that fire retardant doused on it that's now in the soil, go do a test. You'd be shocked how polluted everything is. And that's going to be
Wow.
in the water table of LA for years to come too. It's just it's it's not, nothing is ever isolated. Everything is interconnected, and therefore we just have to really be wise about where we place ourselves and what choices we make, and be careful. I gave you the example of a gas stove. Um, I hear it all the time. Oh, my gas, I love cooking with gas. And we're like, let me show you some studies. I'm not sure if you really still want to continue that route after you look at those studies. it's just the reality. We're not making it up, but we're trying to bring forward the information so people can pick and choose for themselves as best as they can.
Hmm. Yeah. And well, kind of switching gears, man, you are such an inspiration to all women leaders and have been a little bit in this, I guess you could call a disruptive space, right? But it's so necessary. How has that been for you as a CEO, founder, and now establishing this audience? How has that journey been for you?
The hardest thing was always being on the construction side because I was the owner, I had the purse string, I was running the joint, I was making the decision, and I handled all the problems. So the classic interview was usually, tell me about how you grew up, which was a way of asking, what relationship do you have with your mother? Because I had to understand whether they respected their mother or not, because if they did not, there was no chance they could work for me. We would be in trouble from the get-go. So, you come up with different strategies to understand because men work differently with men. Sometimes it's an advantage to be a woman because if I show up there and I say, you're not going to leave this property until you clean up that mess, usually they took it because they sort of figured, she's crazy anyway, we better do it. So, but, it's just at every step you have to be so rigorous about what you're doing. A lot of time I was doing while I was building was, we got to clean up this dust because you are not giving me your best work either because you can't breathe here.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
let's all make an effort and don't just leave your crap here. And of course, every construction project has a lot of materials, cardboard, plastic, and whatever. So I would always open up the back of the car, my car, which they always got a kick of because here's this fancy vehicle, and I fold everything down and I go to the recycling center with as much crap as I can because I don't want to put it in the dumpster. That's one of the things people typically do, and owners don't know about it. It just gets charged back. You pay for it, done. No, with my guys, they had to put it in my car. I would take it to the recycling center, and so I try to educate them too, and say we don't have to do all of this easy behavior. This stuff goes someplace, and we haven't even talked in this interview, in this conversation about plastics and microplastics. I mean, that's a whole other horrific conversation to have, and at every step. I am happy to say on SHG Living, we have a podcaster. This guy's a French fella who works in London and who has developed algae products into plastic replacement containers, essentially, in the packaging industry. He's done water bottles with his algae stuff, so you can eat that stuff literally instead of the plastic water containers. And he's gotten it to a commercial level now. He is in his algae grown water bottles are in a lot of stadiums these days in England. And yeah, major breakthrough stuff is happening, and I for one would really want to support it, which is why we have the podcast on SHD Living. I encourage any and everybody to listen to that because there are other efforts here in the United States I'm aware of in similar direction with algae. There's a lot of stuff there, and I just really want to get behind it, support it, because plastic alone, if there's any breakthrough that can be created with microplastics, it's got to be in plastics because it's in the seafood you eat, it's in the anything you can consume basically on a micro level. And as our testing gear gets more and more sophisticated on a medical level, we find more and more and more evidence of how microscopic fine products we really have. All of our bodies have it basically. Nothing. It's just a matter of how much do you have and how much is already accumulated, sadly. But yeah, so I really want to encourage everybody to think about it carefully. But going back to your question, sometimes being a woman wasn't advantage because I just simply said, well, this is what we're doing because I'm the boss and you got to do this differently here. And they had no choice. And they wrote it up as, crazy housewife, whatever. But I didn't care. They had to learn to be different on my project or there was no place for you to work here.
I admire you so much. And how did you even I'm so amazed by you and your story, and how did you even land into this industry and really kind of become such a steward of change, and how did that start?
It started with me leaving my country. My home country is Germany, and coming to the States, studying art and design here. So I'm a Gemini. I have a very business side, rock bottom business side, nuts and bolts, and also a very creative side in me. And I like both of them. And so when you combine them, I believe you can chart forward into new terrain, but you put it under solid foundation so that it actually lands something and has traction. Because you can have a lot of ideas, but if you don't know how to implement them, they don't amount to very much. And this is why I'm so happy that we are at the over 15 million monthly active users now in SHG Living, that hopefully somebody will come in with capital so we can take it to the next step, because I want to grow this puppy so everybody at least has the information and can make choices for themselves. And hopefully, I think all of that will eventually build into more energy and environmentally friendly type of decision. It is happening already because we were the early ones. Even 5 years ago, it was a very, very different scenario. Today, many more brands come to us as we are translating to attract advertisers to our channel also, because they know that we are a trustworthy type of place for their product to be shown, number one. And also, we are trustworthy. What we are putting out there, we really believe. We've scrubbed it, we believe in it, and we want everybody to know about it. So it's really no surprise. But again, it takes money to bring this forward and make it stick at the end of the day. So for me, it was I wake up every day and there's a different problem to handle or a different challenge to do, and that's what I need. I'm a Gemini through and through, and I would like nothing more than to really have everybody know about SHG Living and what they can find there for themselves, no less.
Yeah, this is incredible. And at this point, Sabine, how many employees do you have at SHG?
Zero.
Really? How? Wow.
Yeah, we get that a
How?
lot. People say, oh, yeah, you must have 10, 20 people probably. And I say, yeah,
Wow.
it's my business partner and I who equally is passionate about this. And we've been putting this together, the two of us, which has been challenging because both of us have other jobs.
What else are you doing outside of that?
Well, I've been building homes all
Okay,
along,
construction. Yeah.
construction, and also I'm a real estate broker in town. And so you can come to me and you can buy a house or buy land, or I'll help you build it. I've been a consultant on many projects also. So I've done a number of different things, but yeah, um, it's been interesting.
Well, how do you get to, with two people, how do you guys get to 15 million audience members? I don't even, can't even comprehend this.
Yeah, with a lot of dedication and a lot of late hours and a lot of knowledge. Um, Many mistakes made along the way, but fortunately also really good decisions along the way that outweighed the mistakes, because you learn. Streaming is a new medium now. It's much more mainstay than it was 5 years ago even. But as I said, we're a niche site, and with all the streaming noise that's out there, there is nobody like us. Nobody's talking about the planet the way we are. There are nature programs, but not in the way of how it connects to the consumer in a daily life.
No, not at all. Yeah, even when I stumbled across you guys, I think this is such a market mover, and you are a new emerging entity that I have no doubt you guys will gain traction. And I guess ideally for you guys in terms of funding, and are you trying to expand the media presence, or what all are your initiatives that you guys are trying to expand on at SHG?
Yeah, we two things. We're raising 3 to 5 million. Depending on how much we raise, will indicate how much we can do. It's all about bringing on advertisers, bringing out the story, bringing out. It takes money to be to create visibility out there. There's so much overflow on everything. To cut through that and really have a presence, it just takes a lot of money. And as I touched on the tools already, we have some serious ideas there. We want to develop that and really give everybody literally a tool in their hand so that they can evaluate it at the point of purchase or just before, so they can make the right purchase. So these are just, stay tuned.
No, these
We
are
have some really cool
amazing
ideas.
things. And yeah, and I think it all ties back to our initial conversation. It starts with consumer choice. And I think that to make an effective choice, you have to have good information. And so you're nailing it, I think, on giving good resources to people and educating them. And I will absolutely be a subscriber of yours. And this is the messages that we need to hear. And I think that turning people online to what's really in their house out of the most, sacred places is, could be hurting them in some ways unconsciously. So,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
that. We think of our homes as our nest. So build it with the right type of products and materials to be a safe nest. Don't make it your poisonous, toxic nest. Your
Right.
choice.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well, I will include the website is there anything you'd like to add, or is there another way that people can work with you more privately, or do you offer things like that?
I don't at the moment. We're really focused on SHG Living. We have a blog. It's called Inspirations, where we also dive deeper into specific subjects. So I would encourage people to look there for specific information that is sort of the question of the moment for them. There are a lot of really good resources there. Think about it. And of course, our shows. We have over 2,000 shows so on the channel. So you can watch us live TV, much like the old cable channels. So we put something together, you can view 24/7, or you go into the library and see what interests you at that moment in time. We have really cool stuff about hotels also. Anybody who wants to travel, check out really interesting, sustainable, healthy hotel options. Fabulous stuff all around the planet at different price levels. And we get shows from Australia to Europe, so homes and also other commercial structures, office buildings, etc. It's really cool to take the behind the scene tour. So the next time you go into a theater, for example, you will think about, oh, what is really in this theater, and how is the air system working here, and what kind of upholstery am I sitting on at the moment, and to be taken through that. And that particular developer's journey, which is what we are presenting in these shows, is kind of a really interesting experience. So if you're traveling, we have some food stuff there. And I'm very excited also, I should mention this, we have just launched a kids channel on SHG Living. We call it SHG Explorer, and you'll see some specific kids programs that a lot of people have said to us are fabulous, because if you have a young child, 3, 4, 5, there are cartoons there, but there are also shows that talk about the soil, the sun, and how everything kind of comes together. And then they go out with their kids and do some gardening out there in combination with the show and the education there. So there's a lot of interesting kids stuff that we will bring out more because we have such interest in it. So, from hotels to kids, we have it all. Check us out.
Yeah, this is so cool. You're so inspiring, Sabine, and I hope to be like you when I grow up one day. You are such an inspiration to me. And yeah, I'm glad we connected, and I'm looking forward to sharing your story, and hopefully we can stay in touch and you visit Austin soon.
We will do.
Amazing. Well,
Love and
thank
light.
you. Yes, love and light. Have a wonderful day, Sabine.
Thank you for your time.
See you next time.
Bye.